when I die and I don't go to be with him, then I would have been wrong.
Okay. That's a way we can, okay.
Yeah, I'll
So,
sure let you know.
if it takes dying to understand that you're wrong, is anyone justified in being at that 100% mark until we die?
Yeah.
Because he tells us you can know that you're right if you believe in me.
So-
I'm not worried about not being here.
Is it possible that you are mistaken, but you don't have a means to figure out you're mistaken until you die?
I'm not mistaken.
Is that, are you using faith?
Mm-hmm.
Is faith a reliable means to reach truth?
At times. You can misplace your faith.
Yes.
And you're going to be wrong. But if your faith isn't misplaced, then you're okay. You're right. And the only way you know if your faith is in the right place, number one, is if you care if it is. You know, a lot of people, they don't care. But if you truly care,
Okay.
then you're going to seek out why do you care? What is a faith that gives you the assurance that you are right?
Are you saying people could have, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right.
Are you saying there's faith that you can use and be mistaken about, but then there's a different kind of faith with conviction, and that you cannot be mistaken about? Is that what you're saying?
No, people can be convicted that they're right, but they can be dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Yeah, probably close the distance. All right. So you guys are okay if I record it?
And what do you do with that recording? Just
I have a YouTube channel, and so I upload. Not every interview makes it to YouTube, but the more interesting ones do.
so
At the end of the interview, could we say that we would rather it not be uploaded?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, you can just let me know.
is it you're recording what we say or us and what we say?
Oh, it's a video.
A video.
Yeah. Don't look. You look fine. Don't worry.
Well, this is not the place to come to get our
Yeah.
best look, you know. Okay.
That's okay. I usually shake sweaty hands all the time, so everyone's like, "I'm so sorry." I'm like, I'm more used to it. So my name is Eddie.
Judy.
Judy.
Mary.
Mary. Okay. So usually it's like a kind of a one-on-one thing, but if it's like a shared belief, then we could probably do two. But even then, the reasons why you believe it may differ, and so it can get a little confusing. So I can give you some examples of what people usually talk about, but I really like it to be open. I really like for you to pick it, because that's when the conversations are more interesting. And so if it's something that you really are confident is true, and it's significant, meaning if you woke up tomorrow and didn't have that belief, it might affect your actions. So again, I can run through some typical beliefs that people talk about, or if you have something in mind, you want me to just
No, go ahead.
throw them out? Okay.
Yeah.
So some typical beliefs people talk about is karma is a big one. I believe karma is real and happening. I believe horoscope predicts my day. I believe prayer works. I believe in a God. I believe I saw a ghost. I believe aliens are out there. I've had a conversation about that. I've talked to someone about they believe the theory of evolution. I've talked to someone about, what are the more popular ones? Your attitude can determine how your day is, or something like that. It could be really anything. And yeah, it's just up to you.
Okay. You go first.
Thing I have the strongest belief about is my religion.
It's something you're most confident about.
Yeah, my religion.
Okay, so
Belief.
if we were to put that into a truth claim, would you be comfortable with, I believe a God exists?
Yes.
Would that be like the foundational, like above anything? Okay. And I never want to assume, is there a particular God you believe in?
Yeah. I believe there's one God.
Okay.
And it's the God that the Bible tells us created the heavens and the earth and
Okay.
all there within.
Yeah, because I talk to a lot of people, so it doesn't always
Yeah, they
mean
have
yeah. Okay, I'll put the timer on. All right. So I want to get a sense of your confidence, and I use a scale from 0 to 100%. 0 is I have all questions, no confidence that this is true. I'm closed off to it for it being, to be true. 100% is I have all confidence, no questions that this is true, and I'm closed off to being wrong. Like you can't be mistaken about it. Where do you?
Oh, where I fall in that? In my belief that there is one God, and that He created all things, and He's in control of all things, I have 100%.
100%.
Confidence in that.
Okay, you cannot be wrong. That's what that. Okay, got it. What is the main reason to get you to that 100%?
Well, I'm 66 years old. I've had 66 years to be confronted with all kinds of different situations that causes me to question, is what I think about this true or not? Am I right or am I wrong? Is the church I go to the right church, or are there multitudes of right churches out there, or does it matter, all that? What I believe about all that is based on the fact that there's one God who created all things, is in control of all things. Now, are there little things that I think don't matter? Yeah. There is. So what my faith looks like in the one God, I realize could look different to somebody else's faith that still expresses their belief in the one God, but then things about that God or how that God has affected their life or not, or what, could look totally different from what I believe. I believe that. So there's 100% belief in the one God.
So what I'm wanting to know is the main reason that you are at the 100% mark. Are you saying, and I'm just going to repeat back what I heard, are you saying that over time there's nothing that made you doubt it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Is the main reason?
Yeah.
Or experiences have
proved it.
Like personal experience?
Personal experience.
Okay.
I've studied the Bible pretty much, and I compare what the Bible says about all situations that come up in my life as to, well, did God bring this bad thing onto me, or whatever, or
how's God working in this bad thing?
Yeah, is he not? Is it my fault? Is it his fault? Is it anybody's fault? Those kind of things that have molded me as a person is what causes me to have 100% belief that, yes, there is a God who is in control of all things.
If you, hypothetically, let's say you didn't have these personal experiences, do you think that you would be less confident, or maybe did not have the belief at all?
Well, I think you're asking me a question that doesn't have an answer, because I grew up being taught that, number one.
Okay.
By attending church, Bible school, reading when I got old enough to read and search things out for myself. I've attended various churches and see, well, what do they do in this situation? What does this one do? Or how do they believe? Or all that. And compare to what I read the Bible teaches, and compared to what I have believed is, are they,
Yeah.
Because I say I believe 100% doesn't mean I know 100% of all that God has done.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily worrying.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to get into doctrine or anything like that.
So as far as my life goes, I've had plenty of bad things happen in my life, but I still believe there's one God who's in control of all things.
So let me ask you it this way. Can you conceive of a situation in which maybe if you were raised in India, and you, instead of were taught the Bible, you were taught the Hindu holy text, Bhagavad Gita, and you went to the temple as a young child, and you went to these personal experiences, and I guess what I'm saying is it conceivable that you could be 100% confident in a completely different belief, given you were raised a different way?
I can't answer that, because it didn't happen to me. I didn't experience that.
Okay.
My parents raised me and set me on a road. Now, whether that road went the direction that their road went, they set me on a road, but they didn't walk that road for me. I have walked that road, and it has taken me to where I am today. Now, how would I know what kind of road over in India I would be set on?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm grateful I was set on the road I was set on. Because as I got older and as I matured, I have tools available to me and the mental capacity to understand when I read the Bible what it's saying.
Okay.
And I take my belief from that, and then as I keep walking on that road and experiences come into my life, good and bad, I have something to go back to and say, why did this happen to me? Or what am I supposed to do about this? And I believe the Bible, that's the purpose of the Bible, is to give us guidelines and things to go by and help us to understand why this thing happened and it's bad, and why would God have something bad happen to me, or is that, am I misjudging it, think about it and figure it out. Well, all those things you have to experience. If I didn't have experience A back here in the beginning of my life, how do I know what I would do when experience B came up? A lot of it would be based on what happened when I did experience A. Did I make a good choice? Did I make a bad choice? Did I seek out counsel from people that come from the same Bible study book that I came from? Help me, Well, to me, life is a step thing that you have A, you have B, you build all along the way, and all your experiences leads you to the next step.
So, I kind of want to explain why I'm asking that question. Okay. This is kind of a weird analogy. So, if I was talking to a chef, and he said, I make, the spiciest jambalaya in town. And I said, okay. So what is it that makes it spicy? And he says, well, I add this ingredient, I add that ingredient, and, bell peppers, and, this and that. And I said, okay. So would you say that bell peppers are contributing to the spiciness level? And he said, yes. And I'm like, okay, so if I took those bell peppers out, would it be less spicy? And he said, well, I couldn't tell you that because I've never done it. Is it possible that the bell peppers are not contributing to the spicy level, and it's just what he thinks? How does he know that the bell peppers are contributing to the spicy level if he doesn't know what it's like to take it out? Does that make sense? So, if we have a belief, there are things that the reasons why we hold it, and I view them as like pillars that hold up the belief to a certain confidence level. And so when I'm wanting to determine what are those pillars that holding these belief up, so I ask questions to hypothetically, let's say if I blew out one of the pillars, pillar A, would that cause your belief to be a little not as sturdy? And I'm not saying that those pillars are incorrect. I'm wanting to identify what are the pillars. Does that make sense?
My main pillar is the Bible.
Okay. So, hypothetically, if you were to find out, and I'm not saying this is the case, but if you were to find out that the Bible was not a good source of truth, or is inaccurate in some way, or for whatever reason, would that affect your confidence that there was a God?
Yes.
Okay.
If I found that out.
Yeah.
But who would be the person telling her that it's incorrect? Because that's
yeah, I'm not really getting into that.
Yeah, that's kind of
the Bible is, part of the reason why we believe in the Bible is our faith in God. So if you're going to say the Bible is not real, who said the Bible's not real?
Again, I'm not saying that it's real.
But what I'm saying is a lot of our belief is grounded in faith. And so you take our elements of faith away, I would question who's trying to take it away. That's what I would question.
Okay.
And who makes them the authority?
Okay. So what I'm wanting to understand is the method we use to reach true conclusions. And so
okay, you identify the pillar. The pillar is the Bible.
Yeah, the Bible. Okay.
Then, as experience comes along, you apply what you have learned through your pillar, the Bible, to the situation.
So I'm not necessarily concerned with the situation. I'm concentrating on the belief,
The belief.
the belief in God, because that's what's holding up the belief in God is being held up by the Bible.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm wanting to know, how did you conclude that the Bible is true?
By my experiences. I have put it
Okay.
to the test, and either it bore truth to me, or it didn't.
What would be an example of it failing the test?
The Bible doesn't fail. I'm the one that fails. Because it's my lack of understanding.
Do you have a way to determine if it was false? Hypothetically.
I think
So
I
if you say you tested it
Mm-hmm.
and it stood the test of time, or your personal experience, you've tested it. I'm wanting to know, what does a failed test look like
Failed test on her part?
on
Or failed test
determining
on
that the Bible is
Bible?
true? How would you? What do you look for to determine if a book is false?
Well, I look back at all of my life. I've looked at other people's lives who don't follow I'll say the Bible, although there's many other things that people, their Bible, their pillar, I would, well, this is what they did. This is why they did it. This is how they did it. Did it work for them or not? If it didn't, kind of dig a little deeper and think, well, where was the fault, or how come it didn't?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then you can look at it and apply that to you, and well, do I do that? Do I put those measures to what I do that determine how I live my life? If I think, okay, I have siblings, 3 siblings, who was raised in the same house by the same parents, put on the same road, and we've all gone down different roads,
Okay.
and have had different experiences. Some of them cost them their lives. Some of them had a sister that died of ALS at 50-something years old. Well, that wasn't a choice she had. That was where her road took her. I have a brother who went to prison. He was on the same road, good road, same foundations, but he didn't acknowledge those. He didn't apply that to his life, so he ended up in prison. That was by choice, the roads he took.
I'm not necessarily wondering how people can apply or not apply certain teachings in their life. I'm wanting to know the test in which we determine whether a book is true or not.
I understand that.
Yeah.
And you have to, the only way I know you can do that is,
Have faith when it says it's true.
that's right. And
You have faith. Okay.
you've already got that right. And you're in the midst of it.
Okay.
I went through a divorce 5 years ago. Now,
Sorry.
well, no, because you're asking me, how do I know?
Mm-hmm.
I was married 44 years.
Yeah.
Never thought in the world that would happen. I mean, it just never even crossed my mind at all. But it did. Well, to me, it's the worst thing that ever happened to me. But as time goes on and I look back at what has happened in my life, I can see things that I did that weren't good for the situation, like my marriage. Now, did I intend it? No, it's just how I reacted. It's just, where was our relationship at that time? Could it handle that type of a weight on it or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know any of that until I'm in the midst of it. And then I take what I learn, I take what I believe God has taught me, has led me to learn. I start applying things that I find that I have experienced in my life to my life. And that's when I can tell you, was it right or wrong, good or bad? My fault, his fault, nobody's fault? Did God cause it? Did he not cause it? I can't tell you all that till I experience it, because that's all we have on this earth is what we experience.
So I want to ask a clarifying question, because I really do want to understand. When you said you have faith that the Bible's true, are you also using faith to conclude that the God is the biblical God is true, or is it just you use faith only for the Bible, and then the Bible, once you conclude that the Bible is true, then you can reach the God? Can someone skip the Bible and go straight to faith in God. Can someone do that? Okay, they need. Okay, so can someone have faith?
Well, I think that has happened.
Okay.
I think that the Bible says this, that, even those who are not in his presence know the presence of God. He is there, and we see him all around us all the time. So we can have a faith in God, okay? And I think the Bible is that foundation that tells us this is what God wants you to do. This is how God is going to direct your life. This is what God expects of you. This is how I can please God. This is how I can have a relationship with God.
Do you have a working definition of faith, like
substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen?
Got it. Okay. Is there anything that you use faith to conclude is true besides religious beliefs?
Well,
okay, state that again.
Well,
is there
like
something?
I get in the car and I expect it to come on when I punch the button.
Yeah. Do you use faith in maybe your everyday life that isn't necessarily religious? Do you use that method of concluding something is true by faith? Is there an example?
Well, it'll take me a minute. The reason I have faith my cars can come on when I turn the ignition is because it's done it
from experience.
So many years. I mean, so to me,
Like reliable.
It's proven itself. That's what happens when you turn the ignition, unless something's broken and can be fixed. Just say, you turn the ignition, the cars can come on. That's just how it is. Now, there can be sometimes when it doesn't, but it's made that way. It's your expectations that way. You don't get in it expecting it not to come on. You get on it expecting it to because it's proven itself time and time again.
Okay, I got you. So you're saying you can have faith that you start your car and it will start because it's done that time and time again. And when it doesn't start, you're able to. It's possible that it won't start, but you can tell when it doesn't, and then you can maybe figure out the problem. So in that scenario, you have a way to figure out if your faith was misplaced in that certain situation. 1 out of 300 days or something like that. What I want to know is, do you have a way, when you use faith in that the Bible is true, to determine that it's not working?
I don't think it's a misplaced faith. I think there are situations that we find ourselves in, and our faith will help us get through those situations. We might think everything is going wrong around us, because we've both been through issues, not divorce, but other things and stuff, and so we might think everything is going wrong around us, but it's that faith that gets me through it. To know that somewhere on the other side the car is going to start.
So here's an example. If I were, let's say I flip a coin and it's heads or tails, and I don't have a coin, but if I flipped a coin right here, I don't know whether it's heads or tails. Would you guys know whether it's heads or tails? Okay. Could I use faith to determine whether it's heads or tails?
No.
Why would faith not be a reliable method to determine whether it's...
Because now you're saying, what's the result? Is it this or that?
Yeah, so the way I would find out is obviously to remove my hand
and you're in control now.
And look at it and go whether confirm or deconfirm. Test it. You can test it.
Well,
so what I'm wanting to know is, we talked about it's been tested. I've tested it, and we determined the Bible is true by faith. Here's a better question.
Okay.
Can someone have faith in something and be mistaken?
Yes.
Okay. If someone can have faith in something and be mistaken, how can you be sure that the Bible is true if faith is how you reached whether it's true. Or faith is what you use to conclude that it's true.
Okay, say that again.
So, what I'm asking is faith a reliable way to reach true conclusions if faith can lead you to incorrect conclusions?
Yes, but your definition of faith, obviously, in this conversation, and this is not a critical thing, this is just what's coming to my mind.
Okay.
Your definition of faith is different from our definition of faith.
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard for us to answer your questions when you're coming from here about faith and we're coming from here about faith, because what we say to you doesn't really make sense and what you say to us doesn't really make sense.
Oh, okay. So, what the definition of faith is the evidence of things the substance of things not seen, evidence. What is it? I mixed it up.
Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen.
Okay. And can you hope for something that you cannot see and still be mistaken about that?
Okay, so
If you hope for something and it never happens, or you don't have any reason to think it's going to happen, you don't know if it's going to happen.
Yeah.
See, what are you saying? If you have faith, okay, what do you do with your faith? If you have faith that this tree's here,
Okay.
but do you see this tree right here?
I'm not sure which one you're pointing at.
I'm pointing at the one that's not there yet.
Okay.
You have faith that there's going to be a tree there, or there is a tree there. But
Oh.
do you know?
Okay. Gotcha.
Do you know?
Could I be mistaken about that?
Is there going to be a tree there? Or is there not going to be a tree there?
Like, let's say I use faith to know that there's going to be a tree there
to
in a
hope
week.
that there will be a tree there someday.
Could I be mistaken?
If that's what you want to put on that situation, yeah.
I just want to use whatever definition
Yeah,
you're using.
I'm just saying, faith is what you have when you don't see it.
Right.
Yeah. So, now, because you're of this world, you were brought up in this world, you were educated in this world, all that experience that you have right now because of how you were brought up and where you are and all this kind of stuff tells you, because see that little thing you put on the end changed everything. Do I think there's going to be a tree there in a week? Well, no, of course not, because you can't grow a tree in a week. Now, you could plant a tree in a week, but you can't grow a tree in a week.
Could I still have faith?
That there's going to be a tree there one day? You
But
can
is
have
it-
faith, and I mean, you're going to get it.
Okay. So you can have faith.
No,
Yet.
she could hope that there will be a tree
there.
there someday.
Right.
Now, if she planted the seed, she might have faith that the tree is going to grow right there.
Okay. So. Are you saying if you have faith and then lead to making that a reality? Okay. I think I'm getting it. It's not that you just hope for it and that's it. You hope for it and then do it yourself.
No.
Faith is more
Okay.
about what God's going to do to you or bring to you or whatever than what you can do for yourself. 'Cause
Okay.
There's something above what all you can do
Let
for
me
yourself.
kind of bring this back.
Faith that he's going to guide me through that situation.
Let me kind of bring it back to the Bible. If there was a Hindu woman and she was brought up to believe in the Hindu holy text, the Bhagavad Gita, and she has faith that is true, can she do that?
Can she have faith?
She cannot see it. She only hopes. That whatever that definition is, can she use that faith to conclude that holy text is true?
No, because you're putting no. Because let me word this maybe.
Okay.
I have faith in. Okay. There's nothing I can do myself. If I want this leaf, I can bend down here and pick it up, and I've got this leaf.
Mm-hmm.
I can't bend down and do anything and say I did that.
Okay.
I did that because faith is believing what you cannot do for yourself.
Okay.
And it comes your way. It happens. It's whatever. So the faith is the vehicle that takes you to what you hope for in the future.
Gotcha. Okay.
I didn't make the vehicle. I'm not driving the vehicle. I'm riding the vehicle
Okay.
to what I'm hoping for and have expectations of is going to happen in the future. But it's not anything that I did that caused what's going to happen in the future other than what the Bible led me. You know, I didn't create the Bible.
Okay.
I didn't do miracles. I didn't do any of that kind of stuff.
So let me ask a more general question, maybe. Is faith a good method to use to conclude whether a book is true?
Not only, no.
Okay.
No.
So if faith isn't a good method to use to conclude whether a book is true or not, what is?
Reading the book and
History.
History, okay.
and yeah.
Experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what is it we look for in history to determine whether a book is true or not? What is an indication that it is true, and what is an indication that it's false?
A lot of things that happened in the Bible are documented by history, which means it's documented by other people, whether they believe, whether they're a Christian, a Jew, or whatever, whether they believe there is a God, or some, you know, some of those nations back then, they thought there were thousands of gods, you know. So
let me do the pillow test now.
okay,
So
I'm about ready for a nap.
if you were to discover, and again, I'm not saying this is the case, but hypothetically, if you were to discover that the history of the Bible is not as reliable, that it is,
I'm not talking about the history of the Bible. I'm talking about history of people like Josephus and people like that who were not Christians, who were not anything but historians. And when Jerusalem fell, and the Bible says Jerusalem fell, well, did it really? Let's go over here and look at this whole different area that has nothing to do with those people, what they believe, or anything. And Josephus says Jerusalem fell.
Okay, so if that history,
so that documents that.
If that document wasn't there,
Corroborates.
if it was found to be unreliable, or historians later figured out it wasn't true, hypothetically, would that affect your confidence that the Bible is true?
You give me a piece of paper with your name and phone number on it, and when I go through that situation where what ifs happen, and how does it make me feel about this over here, I'll let you know. I've had a lot of what ifs, a lot of bad what ifs.
Okay.
But it has never shaken what I believe in my faith. So I haven't experienced that yet. I've had things that have shaken me. I have things that have said, I've even said why. God doesn't come down and say, oh, by the way, let me tell you why. He lets me go through it to strengthen me, to increase my faith in Him, that He's got this, He's going to see it to a good end because He's told me. I take care of my children, and I'm there. I've got you. Believe in me, have faith in me, and this is going to work out.
Okay.
So I've gone through a lot of stuff over here that I just think I'm ruined. This is never going to work out. This is going to be horrible. And then over here, a year or two later, a month later, maybe even a week later, something has happened that has shown me why God said, don't worry about it. I've got it. You're going through this for a reason. And I know the reason. You might not know the reason now, but you're going to know the reason when we get to this side. And He proves that out. Now, does it always turn into a wonderful, great thing for me? No. But where He doesn't give me what I was hoping for or what I was thinking, He gives me the understanding as to why it didn't happen the way I wanted to. And when I get that revelation, then I know, thank you, God. You know that song by, is it Garth Brooks that says, thank you, God, for unanswered prayers?
Yeah.
Okay. You have answered prayers, you have unanswered prayers. It's all from God. It's all for your good. Now, who knows better what's for your good than you or God?
Yeah.
Well, my faith tells me, because the Bible has shown me, taught me, and history throughout the world collaborates. The Bible's true. I don't know if it's a thing that history hasn't been able to collaborate. Now, there's a lot of stuff that can't be collaborated at all because it's not mentioned in history. But anything that is, it bears itself to be true.
It sounds like that you've concluded that historically the Bible is corroborated and it's been confirmed.
Yeah.
But when I asked you if that wasn't the case, would that affect your answer of whether the Bible's true? You're a little hesitant to go there, and it seems the reason I'm going to kind of explain why I think that is because then you kind of went back to how it affects you or how the belief works in your life. In other words, so what I wanted to really understand is because I don't necessarily want to spend too much time on the conclusion, but the way we reach the conclusion. So let me kind of give an example of something that's super clear. So I believe in gravity, and just like the car, it's consistently there, and I think that if I let this go, it's going to drop to the ground. And I haven't done it yet, but from my past experience, it's always been doing that.
If
So
you let it go, it's going to drop to the ground.
but even though I don't think this might happen, I can still identify if I did let it happen, what would cause me to doubt or reassess my understanding of gravity. So if I let this go and it didn't fall, if it hovered, if it went up, it went, anything other than that's a way for me to understand if I'm mistaken about it. So, and in science, it's called being falsifiable. So, if I was wrong, how do I know if I'm wrong? Well, if I let this go, here's the indicators I'm looking for. So, I guess my question, it could be my final question, because we kind of spent a lot of time. Do you have a way to determine that you are mistaken about this belief in God? Is there anything that you can point to say, if that happened, I would understand that I'm wrong?
When I die and I don't go to be with him, then I would have been wrong.
Okay. That's a way we can, okay.
Yeah,
So,
sure let you know.
if it takes dying to understand that you're wrong, is anyone justified in being at that 100% mark until we die?
Yeah.
Because he tells us you can know that you're right if you believe in me.
So-
I'm not worried about not being here.
Is it possible that you are mistaken, but you don't have a means to figure out you're mistaken until you die?
I'm not mistaken.
Are you using faith?
Mhm.
Is faith a reliable means to reach truth?
At times. You can misplace your faith.
Yes.
And you're going to be wrong. But if your faith isn't misplaced, then you're okay. You're right. And the only way you know if your faith is in the right place, number one, is if you care if it is. A lot of people, they don't care. But if you truly care,
Okay.
then you're going to seek out why do you care? What is a faith that gives you the assurance that you are right?
Are you saying people could have, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Right.
Are you saying there's faith that you can use and be mistaken about, but then there's a different kind of faith with conviction, and that you cannot be mistaken about? Is that what you're saying?
No, people can be convicted that they're right, but they can be dead wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is there...
Okay. We're not the ones to determine all this, okay?
Okay.
My faith is what I told you. Well, you said I backed up. I want you to tell me when I did, because I don't think I've backed up. But anyway, I believe in the Bible. I
Yeah.
believe in the Bible. No ands. I don't believe in Hinduism, Buddhism. Now, if I'd have been born in one of those countries and that's what I was indoctrinated with, I guess I'd be one of them. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're convicted of what they believe,
Right.
and I don't doubt that for a minute, but are they convicted in the right thing?
Yeah.
Well, if you don't believe in the Bible, all this is a hill of beans. It doesn't matter. You have to want to believe, and you have to work toward knowing what is right. And if you're fortunate enough to live in an area, a country, or whatever that has the Bible available to you, and you haven't studied it, and you haven't convictingly tried to get to the bottom of what's the truth of the Bible, it doesn't matter.
Does wanting something or being
You can't be convicted of it until you want it.
so does wanting something with a certain amount of conviction affect whether that something is true or not?
No.
Okay.
Okay, if what now?
Truth is truth.
Whether however you feel about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So whether you
I
want it
believe-
or are convicted of it doesn't
Yeah.
indicate that it's true.
So the Bible is true.
So if people are going to believe something different, you know, they're raised different in another area, and you know, it just depends on how you're raised, somewhat. For me, it's like, what's the method? How do we determine which one is true?
Okay.
If we if we use faith as a reliable, if faith is reliable in the sense that it reaches true conclusions, then then I guess we would use that. But if faith can lead you to incorrect conclusions, sometimes
That's a
Is-
misplaced faith.
if faith can mislead you, is faith reliable to come to true conclusions as a method?
True faith is, yes, true faith is.
What?
Now-
How do you determine whether your faith is true or not?
You put it to the test
How do you test it?
by your life, by how you react to things that happen in your life.
What does a failed test in your life look like?
It has not good consequences.
Okay. So if someone has not good consequences, they know that what they have faith in is not true.
Could be.
So if someone had faith that the Bible is true, but they had bad consequences, that is a way to determine that it's not true.
No, because the Bible's going to tell you there's going to be times you're going to have bad consequences to what your faith is.
Okay.
But don't worry about it.
So how do you determine that it's not true? If
Because it failed you. It didn't lead you down the right path or where you wanted to go or whatever. It failed you.
so if that happened, if someone had a belief in the Bible and it failed them, is that a reliable way to determine that the Bible's not true?
I don't think the Bible is going to fail it. I think we can choose.
Yeah, and I don't
paths
think
are
that
not
this is
correct.
going to hover, but
Well,
I can I can kind of determine if that I can identify it. If that happened, I would know. Like, what is a failed test look like? I guess that's what I'm asking. What is a failed test?
A failed test would be if you drop that, it just hovers right there.
Yeah. So what is someone using true faith, and you're able to you say you know it's true faith because you could test it. What does a failed test for true faith look like?
You put it out there. Your faith is right here.
Yeah.
Your faith, and you say, I know this is not, that's going to fail. How do you know? Well, I just know it is. My science teacher told me that. I read it in some books, all that. Well, let it go. Well, I don't want to get my pen dirty, but I know it. Well, you don't know it until you do it.
Okay.
So, you don't
So how do you
know-
do it with the true?
I can't tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, you say, tell me about your faith. What is faith to you? Faith is, when I got up this morning,
Mhm.
my expectations were, when I got up yesterday morning, my expectations were for it to be a good day.
Mhm.
I had faith that it was going to be a good day.
Okay.
Took my mom to church, took her back to the nursing home. She got in a fight with her roommate. It turned out not to be a good day.
Did you use true faith?
I had not what my faith came in when I had to experience that yesterday afternoon. What do you do when your 89-year-old mother gets in a fight with her roommate?
Yeah.
Then my faith tells me, leads me into the right thing to do, because I know I'm looking to God to guide me into what's the right thing. I'm not depending on myself. My faith comes into the fact that I can depend on Him. I haven't seen Him yet. He hadn't talked to me personally yet. I mean, I think He brings thoughts to me. He brings things for me to see, but He doesn't talk to me like I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
So, my faith is up there. everything I do down here, I try to make myself aware of what would Jesus do, what would God do, what would God have me do, and do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's my faith. And until I didn't expect to run into you today.
Yeah.
It happened.
Yeah.
Now, does that have anything to do with my faith? No. It's just life.
Yeah.
It's just life. You know, doesn't matter what your faith is, doesn't matter what my faith is. It's just life. But I've said a prayer since I've been talking to you that, God, I don't know what this is all about, but give me the right words and give me what you would have me to say, whatever this person wants, to help him understand you a little bit better, or to help him understand whatever it is.
Yeah.
Where, you know, with whatever I'm involved in it. So you said, whatever your first question was, I said, my strongest belief is in my Christianity, in my relationship with God. It's all about me and him and our relationship. Everything else revolves around that.
So I have a card.
Okay.
And you guys can reach out to me if you'd like. So I made these cards because sometimes people will see you on the trail and want to get a hold of me because they have a lot of follow-up questions and you know, something they didn't think about.
Yeah.
You know, and they wanted to, like, okay, I thought about this and I want to get back to you.
Yeah.
So I would say I would like to hear about how you use not just regular faith but true faith, and when you tested it out, and what your conclusions were. That would be cool. Cool?
I always pray, not always, I mean from time to time. This is something that I'm aware of, and I want God's guidance in it, is bring something into my life today that I can honor you by. He might have brought you to me today.
Yeah.
Now, I might not have you might call your friend in an hour and say, man, I had 2 wackos today. You won't believe what I And that
That's why I
might
let
be
her
it,
go
you know.
first.
Wow. Threw her under the bus.
No,
Okay.
I know, Judy. Just didn't talk. Okay.
But it might not have done anything for you.
Mm-hmm.
You'll never know what this conversation has done for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I know God, what true faith is. Because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, I believed, I prayed, I did all this stuff, and guess what happened? I won the car, you know. That's faith. They have faith. But then the next day when they find out that their husband got killed in her brand new car, man, what kind of God would do this? See, her faith isn't there. That's how you know what's true and what's not true. It doesn't depend on the
Result.
outcome of the circumstances. It's how do you feel? How do you get through it? What do you know about what God has told you, how he's going to help you get through the car winning times? He's going to rejoice with you during that time, and he's going to hold you up in the bad times.
So it sounds like what you're saying is that if someone tries to test faith in the sense that they can confirm or deconfirm it, if they do that, they're not using faith correctly.
Exactly
That's
right.
correct.
That
Yes.
is right.
So,
If we talk long enough, you're going to learn something from us.
so
You're gonna know.
faith cannot be tested.
Well, in hindsight, it kind of you can see where it kind of was, but you can't start with God says, "Don't test me."
Mm-hmm.
God says, "Don't test me."
So
But
even if, like, I guess let me ask you this: even if faith didn't lead to true conclusions and it's not reliable, because it can't be tested, you may never know that.
Well, see, I think it does lead to true conclusions, but again...
But what I'm saying is, how would you know if it didn't? If you cannot test it?
you might not know in this earth. That's why you better be hoping for the
Because
after.
to have faith is to not test it. Is to not ever deconfirm it.
Sometimes, have you ever heard of, you know, I don't know what to do. I'm going to put my fleece out and see what happens. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
Okay. Back in the Bible, there was this guy who, he didn't know what God wanted him to do.
Mm-hmm.
He thought this, or it could be this. He just didn't know. So, one night, he said, God, I'm going to put my fleece out, which was his blanket. And if you want me to go to this country, or do whatever, I can't remember what it was, in the morning, let it be wet. And so he just went to bed and didn't do anything. The next morning he got up and it was wet. And he was still thinking, I don't know, maybe that wasn't a good thing. So then he said, God, tonight, let me put it out, and if this is what you want me to do, let it be dry. And it was dry.
Yeah.
So that didn't, what that led him to believe is God is there, God's in charge, you let me lead you, and you're on the right road.
Is he using faith correctly because he tried to test it?
No. I mean, you could test God that way. He wants you to, because he wants you to believe that what he says is true.
So if he did the test every single time and it had no effect, would that be a way to give him a different answer? Is that a good test to determine whether God is involved or not?
Oh, goodness. You want my card so I can give you some answers here?
You know what I mean? Is that test designed to give a yes answer or a no answer, or is it a good test? You know what I mean?
I think
God doesn't have to answer you any way, form, or fashion to prove
so
he's God.
So you know, so testing. I guess what I'm saying is, if you use faith correctly, it shouldn't be tested, or
okay.
But the faith is the fact that I'm trusting him.
Yeah, that's not
just trust. Okay.
That is trust.
The trust.
Yeah.
Now, if I pray something and it doesn't happen, does that mean I don't trust him anymore? No.
Is trust a reliable way to reach a truth? Can you trust something and be mistaken about it?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Is that reliable in reaching truth if you trust in it?
Is it reliable in reaching?
Can I trust that my car is going to start and just, how do I say that? Is trust alone a way to know something to be true? Is that a reliable method?
I would turn it the other way and say, because of the truth, I can trust.
But how do you arrive at the truth to begin with?
The Bible. We're back to that pillar that's indestructible.
Right.
That you can't knock down.
Are you able to test it?
Why would I want to test it? I mean, other than saying, this is God's word, I believe it's God's word. These are the examples that he put out to say, this is my word. And I look around and I say, he's right. This is his word. And these are all the things that have happened over my life. These are the things that I can experience. These are the things that I can see. And he said it, and it's true.
Okay. I think I understand.
Oh, you don't? That's the truth.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
I appreciate it again.
I want to know more about...
What? You ask questions now. Go for it.
Why are you doing this? I mean, are you in school?
No. This is something I think I may have said this already, but this is called Street Epistemology. I've seen someone else do this, and I thought it was really intriguing. And I always was like a philosophy nerd, and I thought it'd be so interesting to bring it to public and ask these sort of Socratic questions to understand why, or the method people use to reach truth. And I would say, like, if you're asking like why I'm out here, I would say not only do I like having these conversations, but I also think, like, what would be like how do I say this? What would be a win for me when I have a conversation with someone is if they were using an unreliable method, that I could help them see that. And I think this approach of just having a conversation and maybe not being stuck on the conclusion so much, or the belief, and arguing whether it's true or not, but trying to understand the method they used and seeing if that method is reliable. And so, like I said in the beginning, someone can have a true belief, but they may be using an unreliable method to reach it. And so if they can use that unreliable method to reach that, they may use that method in something else.
Exactly.
So if someone
Okay, stop. We all agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Write that down.
So it's not about me. Maybe I want to give people the tools to really think about whether their methodology is reliable, And so they can apply that across the board, not just with this particular reef. And if we all use more reliable methods to reach truth, I would like to live in a world where everyone believed true things. That would be
Well, yeah.
that would be awesome. And so I think dealing with the method we use to reach it would be how we would do it. Closer, yeah.
Good luck there. God,
Yeah.
how many people are there in Washington now that think they're right?
Yeah.
And there's only one right. I don't care who you are, where you are, what you've done. The one thing I know is there's one right. There's never two right.